Ever feel like you're working hard but nothing really changes? Like you're stuck in the same cycle, trying to improve your life, but results never seem to show? What if I told you the secret isn't in making big changes, but in making tiny ones? Welcome to the Summary of Atomic Habits by James Clear, a book that has changed millions of lives with one simple idea. Small habits, if repeated daily, compound into remarkable results. Let's dive into the science, psychology, and real-world tools behind building better habits. Chapter 1: The Power of Tiny Gains. The main idea in Chapter 1 is simple but powerful. Small improvements, made consistently, lead to big results over time. James Clear explains this through the concept of atomic habits. Tiny changes that seem minor at first but add up significantly when repeated over months and years. He introduces the idea of improving just 1% each day. That doesn't sound like much, but if you stick with it for a whole year, those 1% gains compound to make you 37 times better by the end. On the flip side, getting 1% worse every day leads to a sharp decline. This is known as the compound effect. Just like money grows through compound interest, your skills, knowledge, and habits also multiply over time with consistent effort. Ice cube example. To show how change works, Clear gives a powerful metaphor: an ice cube. Imagine you're in a freezing room at 26 degrees Fahrenheit. You raise the temperature to 27 degrees, 28 degrees, 29 degrees. Still nothing. Then suddenly at 32 degrees, the ice melts. That moment may seem sudden, but it was the result of all the small steps that happened before. This is how habits work too. Progress often feels invisible at first. You're doing the work but not seeing results. Many people quit during this valley of disappointment because they think their effort isn't paying off. Systems over goals. Clear makes an important point. Goals are about the results you want. Systems are about the processes that lead to those results. Everyone has goals. Athletes want to win. Students want to get good grades. Entrepreneurs want to make money. But what separates success from failure is not goals. It's the daily systems people follow. Clear says, you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. That means long-term success depends not on setting big goals but on building good daily habits. In Chapter 2, James Clear dives into a powerful idea that most people overlook. True habit change is identity change. Most people focus on outcomes. I want to lose weight. Some focus on processes. I will go to the gym 3 times a week. But very few focus on identity. I want to become the kind of person who is healthy and fit. Clear explains that lasting behavior change starts with focusing on who you want to become, not just what you want to achieve. 3 layers of behavior change. Outcome-based change. Focus on the result. I want to write a book. Process-based change. Focus on the system. I'll write 500 words a day. Identity-based change. Focus on your beliefs. I'm a writer. The deepest, most lasting change comes when you shift your identity. For example, instead of trying to quit smoking by saying, I'm trying to quit, say, I'm not a smoker. Instead of saying, I want to get fit, say, I'm the kind of person who doesn't miss workouts. How identity is formed. Clear says your identity is built by your habits. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you believe you are. Each time you study, you're voting to be a good student. Each time you exercise, you're voting to be a healthy person. The more you repeat a behavior, the more you reinforce that identity. In Chapter 3, James Clear breaks down how habits actually work. He explains that every habit, good or bad, follows the same 4-step pattern. Understanding this pattern is the key to building good habits and breaking bad ones. Counterclockwise arrows button, the 4-step habit loop. Cue, the trigger that starts the habit. Craving, the desire or motivation behind the habit. Response, the actual habit or action. Reward, the result that satisfies the craving. Let's take an example. Cue, you get a notification on your phone. Craving, You want to feel connected or entertained. Response: you check the notification. Reward: you feel informed, connected, or distracted. This loop becomes automatic over time. The brain learns to associate the cue with the reward, making the habit stronger. Clear explains that the brain loves habits because they save energy. Once a habit is learned, it becomes automatic, requiring little thought or effort. That's why we don't think twice about brushing our teeth or tying our shoes. Our brain has turned those into automatic programs. This also explains why bad habits are hard to break. Your brain is simply following a familiar loop. Chapter 5 continues exploring the first law of behavior change. Make it obvious. This time, James Clear focuses on how your environment can either help or hurt your habits, and why context is more powerful than motivation. How your environment shapes your behavior. James Clear explains that we don't always make choices based on motivation or willpower. We often act based on what's visible and available around us. That's why changing your environment is often more effective than trying to stay disciplined. Example: if you want to eat healthy, keep fruits in plain sight on the kitchen counter, and hide junk food in hard-to-reach places. Your surroundings constantly send cues to your brain. By making the right cues obvious and visible, you naturally encourage better habits without relying on effort. Round pushpin environment design. Clear introduces the idea of environment design. This means arranging your physical space to support good habits and discourage bad ones. Examples: if you want to read more, place a book on your pillow or coffee table. If you want to play less video games, unplug the console and store it in a drawer. If you want to drink more water, keep a bottle next to you at all times. By placing the right cues in the right places, you make good habits the default choice. Don't rely on willpower. Instead, shape your environment to make good habits obvious and easy, and bad habits less tempting. In Chapter 6, James Clear continues discussing the first law of behavior change. Make it obvious, with a key message. You don't need more motivation, you need a better environment. Direct hit why motivation fails. Many people blame failure on a lack of motivation or willpower, but Clear argues that motivation is unreliable. It rises and falls. It's great to get started, but it won't keep you going. Instead of relying on motivation, you should design an environment where good habits are the easiest choice. Example: you're more likely to eat cookies if they're on the counter. You're more likely to exercise if your workout gear is ready by the door. Brain environment, the silent influencer. Our behavior is shaped not by discipline, but by the cues we're surrounded by. In most cases, we react to what we see. That's why visual cues are so important. If something is visible and accessible, it's more likely to become a habit. Tip: want to change your habits? Start by changing what you see. House prime your environment. James introduces the idea of priming your environment. This means setting up your surroundings so they encourage the behavior you want to build. Examples: want to write more? Leave a notebook and pen on your desk. Want to cook healthy meals? Prep ingredients ahead of time. Want to floss? Place the floss right next to your toothbrush. These small changes reduce friction and help you take action without thinking too much. If you want lasting change, don't wait for motivation. Shape your environment so good habits are obvious and easy, and bad habits are hidden or hard. In Chapter 7, James Clear wraps up the first law of behavior change. Make it obvious by revealing a powerful truth. The secret to self-control is avoiding temptation, not fighting it. Lightbulb why self-control alone doesn't work. We often think that successful people have more willpower, but Clear explains that's not true. In reality, successful people are just better at structuring their environment so they don't have to use willpower in the first place. They avoid temptation instead of resisting it. Example: if you're trying to eat healthy, it's better not to keep junk food at home than to rely on willpower to avoid it every day. Brain remove the cue, remove the habit. The core idea of this chapter: every habit starts with a cue. If you remove the cue, you reduce the chance of the habit happening. Examples: don't want to waste time on social media? Delete the apps or turn off notifications. Want to stop watching TV late at night? Unplug the TV or keep the remote in a drawer. Want to reduce distractions? Put your phone in another room while working. Out of sight equals out of mind. Busts in silhouette. Social temptation. It's not just objects, even people can be cues. If your friends always order fast food or skip workouts, you're more likely to follow. To change your habits, it helps to change your environment, and sometimes your company. Willpower is important, but it's not reliable. The best way to control your habits is to eliminate the triggers. If you don't see the cue, you won't feel the craving, and the habit won't activate. The second law of behavior change: make it attractive. James Clear explains that the secret to building strong habits lies in making them appealing. We often think we're driven by goals or results, but in reality we are driven by cravings, the desire for a specific outcome that we associate with the habit. Brain. The role of dopamine. Habits are largely influenced by dopamine, a chemical in the brain linked to pleasure and motivation. Interestingly, dopamine spikes not when we get the reward, but when we anticipate it. For example, the smell of cookies baking excites us more than actually eating them. This anticipation is what makes a habit attractive. So, to build better habits, we need to increase the dopamine hit that comes before the habit. This is what turns a neutral behavior into something we crave. Light bulb temptation bundling. One of the most useful strategies James Clear introduces is temptation bundling. This means pairing a habit you need to do with something you want to do. Formula: backhand index pointing right, after habit I need, I will habit I want. Examples: only watch Netflix while exercising on a stationary bike. Only drink your favorite coffee while reading. Only listen to your favorite podcast while doing laundry. By linking a boring habit with a rewarding experience, you make the habit more attractive. Busts in silhouette. The social influence of habits. Clear also discusses how much of our behavior is shaped by the people around us. We imitate habits from the close family and friends, the many, the social groups and norms around us, the powerful people we admire and look up to. If we want to develop a good habit, it helps to join a group where the desired behavior is normal. Social approval makes habits more attractive. In Chapter 9, James Clear highlights a powerful truth. We don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. And our systems are often shaped by the people around us. Humans are social creatures, and our habits are heavily influenced by our environment, especially the people closest to us. Whether we realize it or not, we imitate the behaviors, beliefs, and habits of those we spend time with. Busts in silhouette. The power of social norms. Clear explains that we are influenced by three key social groups: the close, family, and friends. We unconsciously copy the habits of those nearest to us: parents, spouses, siblings, coworkers, and friends. If your family eats fast food regularly, you're more likely to adopt that habit too. Good or bad, your daily habits often reflect your social circle. The many, the tribe. Social groups create norms, shared rules about what behaviors are acceptable. We often conform to fit in with the majority. If you're part of a group that runs every morning, you're more likely to join in, not because you love running, but because you want to belong. The powerful, those we admire. We are also influenced by those we look up to: mentors, celebrities, leaders, or anyone we view as successful. We adopt their habits because we want their status or lifestyle. Magnet. Why social influence matters. Clear emphasizes that joining a group where your desired behavior is the norm is one of the best ways to build a habit. When something is socially rewarded, it becomes more attractive. When something is socially punished, we tend to avoid it. That's why trying to quit smoking or exercise more is far easier when you're surrounded by people doing the same. In Chapter 10, James Clear teaches us how to identify and eliminate bad habits by looking closely at the cues and motivations behind them. He emphasizes that every habit, good or bad, starts with a cue and is driven by a craving. If you want to stop a bad habit, you need to understand why it started in the first place. Brain, every behavior has a reason. Clear says, every behavior has a surface-level craving and a deeper underlying motive. For example, you scroll social media because you're bored, but the deeper reason is you crave stimulation or connection. You overeat not just for taste, but because you feel stressed and crave comfort. To fix bad habits, you must find the real reason behind them, not just the action but the emotion or need you're trying to satisfy. Counterclockwise arrows button, reframe the habit. Instead of focusing on what you shouldn't do, Clear encourages you to reframe how you see the habit. Example, instead of saying, I need to stop procrastinating, ask, what am I avoiding emotionally? Instead of, I should quit smoking, think, I want to feel relaxed. What's a healthier way to get there? By understanding the craving underneath, you can replace the bad habit with a more positive one that satisfies the same need. Magnifying glass tilted left, awareness is the first step. You can't change a habit you're not aware of. Clear suggests tracking your habits, asking yourself questions like, what triggers this behavior? What craving am I trying to satisfy? What emotion do I feel right before it? This process makes your behavior visible so you can start adjusting it. Brick, create a better environment. Trying to use willpower alone to break a bad habit rarely works. A smarter way is to remove the cue or change your environment so the habit becomes less automatic. Examples: want to stop snacking? Don't keep snacks in the house. Want to watch less TV? Unplug it or remove the batteries from the remote. When the cue disappears, so does the craving, and the habit weakens. In Chapter 11, James Clear emphasizes a powerful principle in habit formation. Success is the product of daily habits, not once-in-a-lifetime transformations. It's not about doing something big once. It's about doing small things consistently, even if the progress seems slow. Turtle, slow progress is still progress. Many people get discouraged when their results don't come quickly. But Clear reminds us that the most powerful outcomes of habits are delayed. This is called the plateau of latent potential, the idea that your efforts don't seem to pay off at first, but over time they build momentum and compound. Think of an ice cube in a cold room. The temperature rises slowly, 26 degrees, 27 degrees, 28 degrees, but nothing happens. Then suddenly at 32 degrees it melts. That's what habits do. The visible result comes after consistent effort. Repeat button, don't break the chain. Clear emphasizes the power of showing up, even when it's a small version of the habit. Missing once is an accident. Missing twice is the start of a new habit, a bad one. The goal isn't perfection, it's consistency. Even doing the bare minimum is better than doing nothing. Examples: too tired to go to the gym? Just stretch at home for 5 minutes. Don't want to write? Write 1 sentence. Not in the mood to read? Read 1 page. This keeps your identity and habit alive. You stay in motion even if slowly. Brick, build the foundation first. In this chapter, Clear explains that early on, the goal isn't to be the best. It's to build the identity of someone who never misses. Instead of trying to go all in, focus on never going backward. Prioritize consistency over intensity. A small step forward is still better than standing still, or worse, sliding back. In Chapter 12, James Clear introduces the idea that humans naturally gravitate toward the path of least resistance. When deciding between 2 similar options, people will naturally gravitate toward the one that requires the least amount of work. This is known as the law of least effort, and it's a game changer for building habits. Repeat button, why making habits easy works. We often think building good habits requires willpower and motivation, but the truth is, the easier a habit is, the more likely we are to do it. Clear argues that reducing friction, the obstacles between you and your habit, is one of the most powerful ways to stay consistent. Examples: if you want to read more, Keep a book on your pillow. Want to eat healthier? Pre-cut fruits and veggies and keep them visible. Want to go to the gym? Pack your gym bag the night before and put it by the door. When a habit becomes convenient, it becomes more repeatable. Broom environment design. Shape your surroundings. Clear emphasizes environment design, structuring your physical space to make good habits easier and bad habits harder. Disciplined people are better at structuring their lives in a way that does not require heroic willpower. Examples: remove distractions like social media apps from your phone. Put your workout clothes where you can see them. Keep water on your desk to remind you to hydrate. Rather than trying to force behavior change, engineer your space to support it automatically. Light bulb use automation when possible. One of the easiest ways to reduce effort is to automate good behavior. Clear suggests tools like automatic savings transfers, subscriptions for healthy meals, setting calendar reminders for habits. When habits are automated, they don't depend on motivation, they just happen. In Chapter 13, James Clear introduces a powerful strategy called the 2-minute rule, which helps eliminate procrastination and makes it easier to start new habits. When you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. This rule doesn't mean you'll only do the habit for 2 minutes. It means the starting version of the habit should be so easy that it's almost impossible to say no. 3 o'clock, the power of showing up. Clear argues that the biggest barrier to good habits is starting. Once you're in motion, it's much easier to keep going. For example, want to read more? Start by reading 1 page. Want to run daily? Begin by tying your shoes and stepping outside. Want to write? Open your notebook and write 1 sentence. These are gateway habits, small actions that lead into the full routine. The goal is to master the art of showing up. Brain why it works. The 2-minute rule works because it lowers resistance. You don't feel overwhelmed. It builds consistency. You show up every day. It helps you form identity-based habits. Even if you only read 1 page, you're becoming a reader. That identity grows over time. A habit must be established before it can be improved. Instead of worrying about intensity, focus on getting started. Repeat button from 2 minutes to lifelong habits. You don't need to limit the habit to just 2 minutes. You're allowed to continue if you feel like it. In fact, most people do. Starting small creates momentum, and often you'll find yourself naturally doing more. But even if you stop at 2 minutes, it still counts. The point is to build the behavior first, not perfection. Brick focus on the first step. Clear suggests you design habits that can be scaled up. Start with a simple version that fits the 2-minute rule, and let it grow naturally. In Chapter 14, James Clear explores how to remove decision-making from your habits by using commitment devices and environment design to make good habits inevitable, and bad ones almost impossible. The best way to break a bad habit is to make it impractical to do. The best way to build a good habit is to make it easier to do. Locked with key. What are commitment devices? A commitment device is a choice you make in the present that locks in better behavior in the future. They help you stick to good habits by removing future options that could derail your progress. Examples: signing up for a gym membership and scheduling classes in advance. Using website blockers to avoid distractions while working. Giving someone money and saying, "If I don't stick to my habit, you can keep it." These tools limit your choices so that the easiest path is the one you want to follow. Broom make bad habits difficult. Clear emphasizes that friction discourages action. To break bad habits, increase the difficulty of performing them. Examples: unplug your TV and hide the remote in another room. Delete food delivery apps from your phone. Store junk food in a high, hard-to-reach cabinet. By adding steps, you interrupt the automatic loop and give yourself a moment to reconsider. Create an environment where doing the right thing is as easy as possible. Gear make good habits easy and automatic. On the flip side, remove all friction for good habits. Examples: lay out your workout clothes the night before. Keep your guitar on a stand in the middle of the room if you want to play daily. Pre-chop healthy snacks and leave them visible. When the desired behavior is the easiest option, you're far more likely to stick with it. Repeat button, automate your habits. Clear also recommends automation wherever possible. Examples: set up automatic savings deposits. Use recurring reminders for daily habits. Automate bill payments to avoid late fees. When habits run automatically, they don't rely on willpower or MO. In Chapter 15, James Clear introduces the fourth law of behavior change. Make it satisfying. The idea is simple. We are more likely to repeat a behavior when it feels immediately rewarding. Even if a habit benefits us in the long run, we tend to ignore it unless there's some short-term satisfaction. Brain: why immediate rewards matter. Humans are wired to respond to immediate outcomes, not delayed ones. Our brains evolved in an environment where short-term survival was more important than long-term planning. That's why bad habits, like eating junk food or scrolling on social media, are hard to break. They offer instant pleasure, even if they harm us in the long run. Good habits, on the other hand, often have delayed rewards. Going to the gym takes time to show results. Saving money doesn't feel rewarding right away. Eating healthy may not feel satisfying at first. Because of this, Clear says we must add immediate satisfaction to good habits, or we risk abandoning them. White heavy check mark: make good habits immediately satisfying. To make a habit stick, add a short-term reward that feels good. Examples: marking a big X on your calendar every time you complete a habit. Tracking your streaks or progress on a habit tracking app. Celebrating with a positive phrase like, "Nice work," after a workout. These little rewards reinforce the behavior and build positive emotion around the habit. What is immediately rewarded is repeated. What is immediately punished is avoided. Crossmark: make bad habits unsatisfying. On the flip side, if you want to break a bad habit, make it feel immediately unsatisfying. Clear suggests using tools like habit contracts, written agreements with real consequences if you don't follow through. Accountability partners: someone who checks in on you and makes you feel responsible. By adding social or financial consequences, you make the habit less appealing in the moment. In Chapter 16, James Clear explains one of the most effective tools for staying consistent with habits: habit tracking. What gets measured gets managed. Tracking your habits creates a visual cue and offers immediate satisfaction, both of which help you stay motivated. It also builds a sense of momentum, and momentum is key to long-term success. Calendar: why habit tracking works. It's obvious. A visual tracker keeps your goals in sight. It's attractive. Seeing progress feels rewarding. It's satisfying. Checking off a day gives instant gratification. It's a cue. It reminds you to stay on track daily. Clear explains that tracking is like a signal. Yes, you're showing up. Keep going. Example: marking in crossmark or white heavy check mark on a calendar each day you follow through with your habit, like exercising, meditating, or writing, creates a streak. Link: don't break the chain. The idea of a streak taps into our natural desire to not break progress. Once you see 3 or 5 or 10 days in a row, you feel emotionally invested in keeping that streak alive. Clear calls this "don't break the chain," a simple but powerful form of motivation. Missing once is a mistake. Missing twice is the start of a new habit, a bad one. Chart decreasing: when you miss a day. It's inevitable. Life happens. You'll miss a day. Clear says, that's okay. Just don't miss twice. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is to bounce back quickly. One off day won't ruin your progress, but letting one miss turn into 2, then 3, that's how habits fade. Tips for bouncing back: resume the habit as soon as possible. Don't dwell on guilt. Make the next action small and achievable. Mobile phone tools for habit tracking. Use a paper calendar or journal. Download habit tracker apps, like Habitica, Loop, or Streaks. Use a bullet journal with a habit section. Whatever tool you choose, the key is consistency and visibility. In Chapter 17, James Clear highlights the power of accountability in habit formation. While internal motivation is important, external pressure can make the difference between following through or falling off track. The more immediate the consequence, the more likely the behavior. That's why accountability partners and habit contracts work so well. They add immediate consequences to your actions. Busts in silhouette the power of social expectations. Humans are social creatures. We care deeply about how others perceive us. When you know someone else is watching or will check in on you, you're more likely to follow through. Clear gives examples like having a workout buddy, checking in daily with a mentor or coach, sharing your goals publicly. These tactics leverage positive peer pressure. Writing hand, use a habit contract. One of the most effective tools Clear recommends is a habit contract, a written agreement between you and one or more people that outlines the habit you'll stick to, the frequency of the habit, the consequences if you fail. Example, I will not skip the gym more than once a week. If I do, I will pay my friend 500 Indian rupees. This creates immediate accountability, which makes failure more painful than success. Repeat button, why it works. A habit contract taps into two strong forces. Loss aversion. People hate losing more than they enjoy gaining. Social accountability. We want to be seen as reliable. By combining both, you make breaking a habit psychologically uncomfortable, which pushes you to stay consistent. Knowing that someone else is watching you can be a powerful motivator. Hammer and wrench, how to set it up. To build your own accountability system, choose a trustworthy accountability partner. Clearly define the habit and frequency. Agree on clear consequences for failure, money, tasks, embarrassment. Track it and check in regularly. It doesn't have to be extreme, just enough to make you take it seriously. In Chapter 18, James Clear explores how your genes and natural abilities influence your habits, and how to use this to your advantage. Genes do not determine your destiny. They determine your areas of opportunity. This chapter helps you understand the importance of self-awareness and choosing habits that are suited to your unique personality, interests, and strengths. DNA, genetics, and behavior. Clear acknowledges that genetics influence performance. Some people are naturally better at certain things, whether it's endurance, creativity, analytical thinking, or social interaction. But rather than feeling limited by genetics, he encourages you to leverage them. The goal is to work with your nature, not against it. Compass the big idea. Play a game you can win. The key insight of this chapter is, the secret to maximizing your odds of success is to choose the right field of competition. Instead of forcing yourself to adopt habits that go against your personality or interests, build habits that fit your natural inclinations. Examples: if you're naturally energetic and outgoing, a group workout may suit you better than solo running. If you're analytical, you may enjoy budgeting apps or habit tracking more than others. If you love structure, rigid routines might work better than spontaneous plans. When your habits match your personality, they feel easier and more enjoyable, which makes them more sustainable. Magnifying glass tilted right, know thyself. Clear suggests using personality tests, reflection, and observation to identify your strengths and preferences. Ask yourself, what feels easy for me but hard for others? What do I lose track of time doing? Where do I get better results with less effort? The more aligned your habits are with your nature, the more likely you are to stick with them and succeed. Balance scale, genes matter, but so does strategy. While genetics may give you a starting advantage, strategy, consistency, and environment still matter more in the long run. In Chapter 19, James Clear introduces the Goldilocks rule, which states that humans experience peak motivation when working on tasks that are just the right level of difficulty. Not too easy, not too hard. The greatest threat to success is not failure but boredom. Clear explores how boredom, not burnout, is often what causes us to abandon habits. The key to long-term success is to keep your habits interesting and appropriately challenging. Direct hit the Goldilocks zone. The Goldilocks rule is named after the fairy tale where Goldilocks chooses the option that's just right. Similarly, we stay most engaged when the task isn't too hard, causing frustration, and it isn't too easy, causing boredom. Example: a tennis player enjoys the game most when facing someone of equal or slightly better skill. It keeps the match exciting and challenging. Repeat button. Why we quit good habits. Clear explains that many people abandon good habits not because they're too hard, but because they become monotonous. Going to the gym becomes repetitive. Eating healthy gets boring. Writing every day feels dull. The initial burst of motivation fades, and without novelty or visible results, we get bored and quit. Brain professionals stick to the boring. The real difference between amateurs and professionals is not talent. It's the ability to stick with the routine, even when it gets dull. Mastery requires practice, but the more you practice something, the more boring and routine it becomes. Professionals find ways to stay engaged or push through boredom because they know that real growth lies on the other side of consistency. Counterclockwise arrows button. How to stay motivated. To stay in the Goldilocks zone, Clear recommends: adjust the challenge level, slightly increase the difficulty as you improve. Track your progress. Seeing improvement keeps you interested. Set new targets. Break long-term goals into smaller challenges. In this final chapter, James Clear addresses a subtle but important point. Even good habits have a downside if we stop paying attention. The greatest threat to success is not failure, but complacency. Once a habit becomes automatic, we run the risk of coasting, doing things the same way without improvement or reflection. Over time, this can lead to plateaus or worse, unproductive routines. Brain the problem with habits. Automation versus awareness. Habits help us by making behavior effortless, but that same automation can turn into mindlessness. Clear explains: good habits help us take action without overthinking. But we must be careful not to get stuck in routine and ignore opportunities to grow or adapt. Example: a salesperson who relies on the same old script may stop closing as many deals, even though they're still doing the habit. Chart increasing the solution. Continuous improvement. To overcome stagnation, Clear suggests practicing deliberate reflection and review. Instead of just doing your habit, ask: is this still working for me? How can I improve slightly? Am I tracking results or just checking boxes? This approach combines automation with awareness, which keeps your habits effective long-term. Reflection and review ensure you keep improving instead of slipping into autopilot. Counterclockwise arrows button. How to reflect on your habits. Clear recommends a simple review process. Annual review. Look back at your successes and failures for the year. What habits worked? What didn't? Integrity report. Ask yourself if your behavior aligns with your values. Where did you fall short? This helps you course correct and build habits that evolve with you. Bar chart. Measurement matters. Another risk of automation is focusing on process over purpose. For example, a writer who always writes 500 words a day might forget to focus on quality. A runner who hits the gym daily might stop challenging themselves.